This is MJ. I'm an author, I'm an artist, I'm an analyzer. Find all my work at mjmunoz.com. Welcome to Swinging Through Comics. Visit mjmunoz.com/STC for notes and links. And don't forget to subscribe, like, share, and comment to help me grow. So, this is an episode of Swinging Through Comics, but I'm not talking directly about comics I've read. I'm talking about a comic adaptation. I'm back on the WandaVision train. And I'm going to stay on the train till it gets to its final destination. And if you don't know what that means in the future, that's okay. But if you're here at this time, you'll know why that train might not be going to a good destination, why I might not want to be there. And I'm not talking about the show specifically. So I'll make my comments brief, and then I'll get out of here. This is late anyway, and I'm more just recording this for my own, pedantry, satisfaction. There we go. I'm doing it because I want to. Not because I have to, or have anything to benefit from it, because I'm really losing things if you think about it. Anyway, so episode 6 of WandaVision was called All New Halloween Spooktacular, and I've dubbed it Small Town Horror. Last episode, I had the bright idea to give an alternate name to the episode, because there's, always an undertone of something, or undercurrent, and sometimes it comes right to the surface in WandaVision of something else going on that, has to do with the broader story, the bigger story of what's actually going on between Wanda and Vision and in Westview. By the way, I don't know if I haven't heard anybody point it out specifically, except for maybe heavy spoilers, but Westview, WandaVision, WV, that's kind of cute how they did that, how she would have picked that town. And I wonder if, on a subconscious level, she picked that town or what. Anyway, so this was the Halloween episode. We got to see the kids. Is it Billy and Tommy? Is that what their names are? Doesn't matter. They're just the boys, the twins, the kids, whatever. And they're going to become Wiccan and Speed, like everyone's been talking about. And they manifest some powers in this episode. And I want to talk about two things. One is really an observation from last week about the show broadly that I wanted to make. And one is from this episode. So Vision going off and lying to Wanda about what he's doing, and then seeing the edge of the town, past Ellis Street or at Ellis Street, how things are different there, was really creepy. I love the fact that he asked Agnes, what's an Avenger? He knows he's Vision, he knows who Wanda is, but he doesn't really have any memories from before then, like he had said in the other episode when he kind of exploded on Wanda and was yelling at her and stuff. He doesn't really know what's going on, and his memories are so faulty. But it was an interesting touch that it's funny that he knows he's Vision, he knows his powers and all those things. He just doesn't know about their dealings with other, with the rest of it. So that's interesting. But seeing her, again, they did a really good job of Agnes being scared and upset and everything, and then going back to just being the funny neighbor, and then going back. Turning her car around and going back into town or whatever. That was really cool. And I loved seeing the people on the edge of town barely moving and just being barely kept alive. And I guess I'm sure they're eating and stuff like that, but it was funny. Well, it wasn't funny. It was cool to see specifically that one couple where the lady's hanging up lights or whatever, and the guy, her husband behind her, is putting a pumpkin, a jack-o'-lantern down, and he repeats the same motion over and over again. And she's stuck kind of in the same motion over and over again. And that would be, I like that because it's the idea of, what would it look like if you deconstructed the motion loop of a character? Like in Pirates of the Caribbean, if you've ever been on that ride, there's this fight that's happening as you're passing through, and it's in silhouette, it's in shadows, and you see, and it's maybe, let's say it's a 20 mark or 20 step dance or choreographed sword fight between these two guys, and it just loops continuously, but it's structured in such a way that anytime you're seeing it, if you sit there long enough, if the ride is stopped, you see the beginning, the middle, the end, and then you realize that it's looping over again. And obviously it's not the same two guys. It has the same sounds and things like that, though, associated with it as well. So it looks like it's these two guys fighting. If you're just going by in a zip, or if the ride's moving like it should, it's a cool thing to see. But when you sit there, when you're stuck with it, you get to see, oh, this is fake. It's obviously fake. I knew it was fake, but now I see how they affected the thing that they were going for. Same thing for a shot in something. You would have someone just do one simple motion one time, or back and forth or something like that. And it's interesting, and how they're using that kind of stuff in this show to express how creepy things are and how twisted the the mind is that's causing everyone in this town to be cast in this suburban sitcom show. And I think that's really cool. And having Vision see that and be exposed to it and seeing all the people frozen on the outer edge of town or barely moving, and just like in these still, like just doing the bare minimum. So if a camera passes by, you just see them for a split second. That's all you need from them. That was really effective, and it really speaks to the depths of what's going on here. Something I was talking about in my real life that I should have included in the review in my analysis last time that I'll include here is like Wanda telling the boys not to age up after the puppy died, is interesting because she's not taking her own advice. She's being hypocritical. She is telling them to not move on and like run away from the pain and the hardship of dealing with what she's dealing with. And it's interesting because she's doing that. She's running away from things. She's deceiving herself. She's let herself get lost in this fantasy. And she's kind of aging up as she goes from the 50s to 60s to 80s to this was like a early 2000s sitcom, you could say, like Malcolm in the Middle or whatever. And although it felt a little more modern than that because of all the talking to the camera, but I guess they did that in that show. So anyway, it's interesting because acting in a mothering role, acting in a parenting role, she is having to give advice to people younger than her who are dependent upon her, and she's giving them good, solid advice. The fact that she's being hypocritical, I don't care about. What I'm wanting to focus on is, as a father, I know that there are things that I tell my children that I don't think about myself. It's like the thing from the Gospels, take out the plank or take out the plank in your own eye before you worry about the speck in your neighbor's eye. It's so easy to see for ourselves that we're fine. Everything's great. But with others, we can easily spot their flaws and even come up with great solutions of how to actually take them. And if they listen to us, hypocrites that we are, they would solve their problems. But it'd be even better if we stopped and applied that information to ourselves, really looked at ourselves and took stock of who we are and what we're doing and addressed those issues. And I find it so interesting that she's this woman who had this love and who never got to really live it out and never got to go through all these normal stages. She didn't have a regular childhood. She was, captured by Hydra and then, manipulated by them. And then she didn't, her man she loved died. She was never able to be with him, never able to make children. And then in doing in pursuing that fantasy, however she got into this, in pursuing the fantasy of that, she ends up kind of coming full circle and coming face to face with her own flaws and the very things that she was trying to run away from in her children that she's manifested. And I think it's really great. I think it's really beautiful. I think children are one of, they say that there's a saying that if you want to learn something, you need to teach it. Well, if you want to learn life, you have to teach life. The only way you get to really teach life, in my opinion, from my experience, is by being a parent, because you are teaching life to your children. And going through the parenting process rears up all these things. As you're rearing up your children, they're rearing up you in some ways. And there's this reciprocity that happens, and it's really interesting. And I find it very beautiful that they're addressing that in this show, as well as her grief and the trauma of everything that's happened to her. And I'm really interested to see the resolution of it. But it's just, I love the fact that something like this, a comic book show, can be used to address these sorts of themes. And it's part of why I love science fiction so much, and fantasy to a lesser extent. I'm just less familiar with fantasy. I'm not going to pretend I'm as into it as I am sci-fi. But I mean, like Star Wars, space opera, it's fantasy basically, and that's something I'm really into. And I love all the lessons that are baked into that, and that you can see in that as you go on these journeys with these characters. And I'm really appreciating the fact that in this show we've been able to slow down with Wanda and Vision to a lesser extent and see them develop and change and go through these things and just go through the paces of life and start learning some things. And I think it's really great. And I'm just excited to see the rest of the series, because I think it has some interesting, good things to say. That's all I have to say. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. and ask that you take care of yourselves, that you would take care of each other, be well, and I ask that you would find the strength to be the hero that you needed in your most desperate hour. And with that, I'm going to get out of here.